serious, what is your darkest childhood memory? In Australia we have a very horrible tick called a paralysis tick. We had a house near the beach kinda in the forest and we would bring our dog up every time we went up there. One day we came back and our dog was kind of limping a little. At the time we thought that he had just hurt his foot. The next day he didn't want to eat and was walking around very sloppily. The day after we couldn't get up without our help and could only walk about 3 meters before falling over. That day we took him to the vet to see what was wrong and they couldn't find anything wrong with him, and so we took him home and the next day he wasn't moving at all. So my parents thought he had done something to his spine and obviously we didn't want him to be in pain. 3 days after we euthanized him, my dad was vacuuming the hallway when he saw something amongst all the fur on the ground. He went to take a closer look and lo and behold there was a paralysis tick in the hair. He tells this story to this day with tears in his eyes because he realized he had put down our dog of 5 years thinking he was in pain. Physical abuse from my parents. I remember when I was around 10 or 11. I was getting beaten with a belt and I ran into my room, closed the door and ran under my bed to hide. My mom came in and told me to get out, but I wouldn't because I was afraid. She left and I thought I was safe, but I still stayed under just in case. Next thing ya know, my mom comes under with newspaper set on fire and throws it under the bed. She said either get burnt or get out. The burn marks are still under the bed of my childhood bedroom. Another thing that sticks with me is this specific punishment feed use on me. They would put uncooked rice on the floor and make me kneel on it. It was super painful and sometimes I'd be there for hours at a time until they told me I could get up. Another thing that sticks out is whenever I'd get in trouble. A lot of the time fe'd wait until I was in the shower to beat the shit out of me, cause it hurt more. I would be terrified, and honestly it was super humiliating, especially now thinking back on it. There's a shit ton more, but I'm not trying to write a book here. I'd never wish this stuff upon anyone. I used to be in this farm club where I went to take care of animals and stuff. I was young, so I didn't realize that the animals there were being abused. Once there was this pig that they were going to put down because it was taking up too much room. So they shot it but it didn't die instantly. Instead they left it there to die slowly. Another one was a chicken with an infection on its foot. The club leader lady just gave us small children a knife and told us to fix it ourselves. We only wanted to help, but it ended up bleeding out. I quit after seeing how well some others clubs were treating their animals and how poorly ours looked. When I was about 5 or 6 my parents took me with them to a Halloween party their friend Gary had thrown. I didn't know much at the time, but they were all big drug addicts and ended up doing a lot that night. Gary ended up making a huge scene and then locked himself in a room. A few minutes later we hear a huge bang and a thud of something heavy falling on the floor. Shortly after we were all forced outside and the police and the crime scene cleanup crew arrive, and I overheard them telling Gary's wife that he had ended up blowing his head off with a shotgun. Not a Halloween I'll ever forget. From when I was very young, like ability to hold memories was still developing. So probably 2 to 3. I was playing out in the front yard of my old house and an old, as of 2007, Suburban pulls up and asks me to come over and he needed help. My father I guess was watching from inside and ran out with a stick of prog metal. Cold bean anything RLY. That part didn't stick. Anyway, I remember my dad yelling something along the lines of duck off to the man in the truck. I remember being lifted slightly off the ground then hearing a loud smash then the truck peeled out and sped away. What I've pieced together, the guy got me to come over to the truck. My dad ran out and intervened. The guy tried to pick me up. My dad smashed one of his windows with the piece of metal. The guy sped off. My darkest memories as a child was when I was abused by my nanny and her son. I was abused in was by being dragged by her son and being verbally abused by both of them. He once even banged my tooth on a table when a tooth was loose and tried to twist my head all the way around when he was mad at me. These were all when I was super young. I was like 5 and 6 during these times. He once sexually assaulted me at a party. I went to the bathroom and I forgot to lock the door. He saw I forgot to lock it, so he burst in and looked at and so he dragged me to his bedroom after I finished. He started touching me, and when I yelled at him to stop he wouldn't. That was my last memory with him. Because I told my mom, and she was infuriated. I now sometimes have PTSD from those memories. I watched my mom put down my dog with a 9mm Glock on my 10th birthday. After watching it accidentally get ran over by my dad while going to get pizzas for the party. They didn't even have the chance to try to do the fluffy town away spiel. I watched my dogs kill my cat, and it was my fault. I don't know if I should be relieved that I can't remember what his yowl sounded like, or guilty. I found gay porn and pics on the PC. The whole family used one PC. I was around 12 and was really disturbed and scared as I had not even seen real porn yet. My dad told us that he downloaded a few files from a website and that site warned him that it might download other files too along with what he intended to, but he never thought those files would be gay porn. I thought, well, weird af, but okay. When I was 15, I found out he secretly had a boyfriend, so the whole downloading thing was a lie obviously. He then went to live with him a year later. When my teacher made a move on me, I'm okay now. I've gotten all the help I needed and I'm on the road to recovery 3. My third Christmas I pissed my drug addicted parents off during a visitation they had at my real dad's mom's house. We lived with our mother's parents. My punishment was they put me on a running treadmill and turned it up till I slipped. The treadmill ripped so much skin off both my arms. They then made me stay there for hours and dropped me off without telling my grandma what they did till the next day. It's my first memory of bad physical pain. In elementary school a student was absent. His house was on the way to school, so we always walked by it. That day when he was absent we passed by it on our way home and there were officers there arresting his father for beating the shit out of him. His face was covered in cuts and bleeding. It didn't look real. It looked like someone took a red marker and just marked his face randomly. Never heard of or saw him again. That time my dad was taking all the puppies away one at a time. Calls me to bring the last puppy from inside the house out to him. I was like 7. I hand him the cute little puppy, one of the ones I had been nurturing for months, and he proceeded to tie a string around its tail and cut the tail off with an axe right in front of me. All puppies survived, but I really wish that didn't happen and that I didn't see it. Before that I never wondered why dogs were born with long tails but grew up with short tails. Almost getting abandoned. I have had a lot of ducked up shit happen, but this has got to be the most ducked up. I was told a red car was going to pick me up and he ran off. I don't like red cars now because they trigger me. I have almost been abandoned twice, just this one is the most traumatic. Hiding under the bed with my brother while my dad beat up my mother and grandmother. I was about 6 and my brother was 3. Getting bad medical news as a child. I have a weird collection of times when I've been uneasy in broad daylight or while there's other people around, so I should feel safe. There were times when I've heard knocks on the window while I was playing with our dog that had to be fenced into one area of the backyard because he had issues due to abuse and a high kill shelter. I thought it was my dad, but my dad was in the kitchen. Sometimes I felt like someone was watching me, or sometimes for no reason I felt incredibly scared and broke into a sprint to the house after playing outside for a bit. I'm still in my adolescence, so I'm not done with my childhood yet, and so far nothing terrible has happened to me. It just feels really weird when my 14-year-old self that got over hereditary in a week suddenly get overrun with horrible fear. My childhood was a weird dichotomy. I will often say anything under age 7 was idyllic. In reality, it was not at all. It was so traumatic that I repressed all the dark shit and filed it away in my brain. It lives deep inside and doesn't come out, so I couldn't tell ya. Please subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.